Diolch, please be seated.
Just before the meeting starts properly, if I can just remind everybody, because we do have two councillors joining us online, just a little bit about the rules of joining online. And that is that you need to be on mute throughout the meeting unless you need to speak. And then if you indicate to speak and unmute yourself when invited to speak, you can then say what you need to say and go back onto mute afterwards. If you do have a question or need to speak and make a comment, if you can press the virtual hand on screen and the chair and I will try and make sure that we take notice of you and call you in the appropriate order. If for any reason you have to leave the meeting, again, if you can let us know about that and then we will deal with your absence. I can just see Councillor Gibbs has got his hand raised at the moment. Is there something you wanted to say right now, Councillor Gibbs? I'll carry on and get to the end, and then if Councillor Gibbs is going to be able to join us, we'll need to come back to him then. Just remind you of the rules that if you miss any part of any debate, you are not able to vote on that matter, and we'll need to rely on you to tell us if you have not been able to listen to the whole of the debate. And when it comes to voting, I will call out the names of the councillors joining us remotely, and we will take your votes into account along with everybody else's. I can see we've lost Councillor Gibbs now, and I think probably what he was going to tell us was that he was having connection problems. I think probably the best thing to do is going to be if Democratic try and help Councillor Gibbs to reconnect, but in the meantime we'll just continue doing introductions. So I have one more thing just to add, and that is that we are going to have to slightly alter the agenda for this evening because Councillor Scriven has a number of matters on the agenda and he has a deadline that he has to leave the meeting. So we are going to deal with the first few items up until the end of item 8. And then we're going to take items 12, 13 and 14. So we'll take those next, and then items 9 onwards will be pushed to after those. Hopefully between us all we'll remember that we're doing that, and we'll try and make sure you're all voting on the right thing. I'm going to hand over to you. Oh, I can see Councillor Gibbs is back. And I'm then going to say, Councillor Gibbs, you're going to need to have your camera on. So I don't know if you can put your camera on, because I'm afraid that is an absolute requirement that we can see you when you join the meeting. And he's left again. We'll carry on and we'll get through the sort of introductions part, and then we'll see if we're able to get Councillor Gibbs back into the meeting at that point. So, Mr Mayor, I'll hand over to you to formally commence the meeting.
Thank you, Morgan Officer. Prynawn da croeso. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Full Council meeting on Wednesday, the 4th of December 2024. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. Item 1, apologies for absence, please.
I think we'd have apologies from Councillor Julia Jenkins, Councillor Jeremy Davis and Councillor Michelle Simmons, unless anybody knows of anybody other than that. Those are the three that I had. No, I think that's it, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in the agenda in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992 relating to council tax, Local Government Act 2000, Council's Constitution, and Members' Code of Conduct. Members are reminded that they must identify the item number and subject matter that their interest relates to and signify the nature of the personal interest. And where members withdraw from the meeting as a consequence of the disclosure of the prejudicial interest, they must notify the Mayor when they leave. Any declarations of interest, please? Councillor David Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 10 and item number 13, both Colum Mansion and Charity, which use both services. Thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda, minutes of previous meetings, items 3 to 8. To approve as accurate the minutes of the meetings, call a leader, please. Thank you, Councillor Carter. Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor David Jones. Are there any questions, please? Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's in relation to item 3, that's the Scrutiny Social Services Committee of the 5th of November. If members look at the minutes, at those present, it does not include Councillor Louise Minute-Vokes, a Cabinet member, and that should be added to those present. And I move.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's fine. It's clear that Councillor Minette-Vokes was there because she presented one of the items. So we just need to make that correction.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Yeah, we'll take that to the vote then, please.
Councillor Lisa Mitten, can you tell me if you are voting for, against or abstaining,
For.
please? Thank you. I can't see that Councillor Gibbs has rejoined, so we'll have to make progress in his absence. If everybody else could then cast their votes, please. Councillor Claire Jones. Thank you. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. Okay, we now go on to item 12 of the agenda, Council Tax Base 2025-26. To consider the report of Director of Finance, Councillor, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. It's happened already. Try again. Item 12, the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, Delegations and Indemnity. To consider the report of the Deputy Chief Executive, Councillor Jamie Scriven, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick summary of item 12. So the Council is seeking approval for delegating powers to the Head of Public Protection and the Environmental Health Manager. This is to appoint qualified officers as inspectors under the Act. These inspectors will have the authority to enforce health and safety regulations and institute legal proceedings. Additionally, an indemnity is proposed to protect the inspectors performing their statutory duties, provided those actions, of course, are within their powers and duties. The delegation ensures compliance with our statutory obligations under the Act, facilitating effective enforcement and legal action where necessary, and the indemnity will serve as a protection to those inspectors from undue liabilities, and that will reinforce the confidence in their enforcement roles as well. So if I can just take you to the recommendations. So at 2.1, the giving of delegated power to the Head of Public Protection and the Environmental Health Manager to appoint suitably qualified officers to act as inspectors under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 be approved. 2.2, the giving of delegated power to authorise and suitably qualified officers appointed as inspectors in accordance with 2.1 above to institute legal proceedings as an inspector under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 be approved. 2.3. The institution of any proceedings in accordance with 2.2 shall be exercised following consultation with the head of public protection / environmental health manager, and after taking into account the code for Crown prosecutors, be approved. 2.4. An indemnity confirming the pursuant to section 26 of the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. It is the policy of this authority to indemnify inspectors appointed under the Act against the whole of any damages and costs or expenses which may be involved. If the authority is satisfied that the inspector honestly believed that the Act complained of was within their powers and that their duty as an inspector entitled them to do it, providing the inspector was not willfully acting against instructions, be approved. And 2.5. The Constitution be amended, adding the resolutions detailed at 2.1 to 2.4 and all existing Constitution delegations under Part 1 of the Health and Safety at Work Act, etc., 1974, to the non-executive delegations at Section 14, Appendix 4, Scheme C, Part 3, be approved. I so move the report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scrim. Do we have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Is there any questions, please? No question? No. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarity, really, how wide is the remit for the inspectors? Is it for health and safety breaches in public buildings, etc.? How far is the remit?
It's a shared responsibility with Health and Safety Executive and a local authority. There's specific regulations made under the legislation that defines which properties and businesses would be the responsibility of the local authority and which would be responsible of the Health and Safety Executive. I can provide members outside of the meeting with more detail on the types of premises, but it is specified within the regulations what fall under our remit, what fall under HSE.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any further questions? Oh, we go on to comments then, please. No comments. Okay, we take it to the vote.
I'm afraid because I can't see Councillor Kevin Gibbs, I'm not going to be able to ask him to vote on this matter. So I will ask that Democratic, if they are able to assist Councillor Gibbs any further. You're still trying, are you? So we'll carry on with the meeting and hopefully we'll get him in later on. Councillor Mitten, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mona Rossa. I think we got it right this time now. Okay, you go to item 13 of the agenda, which is Public Protection, Compliance and Enforcement Policy. To consider the report of the Deputy Chief Executive. Councillor Jamie Scriven, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 13, the policy is outlining the Council's approach to enforcement across public protection services, emphasising proportionality, consistency and fairness in how we go forward with things. What it does is it integrates changes reflecting new service areas since the last review that took place in 2019. What the policy will do is provide a clear framework for regulatory enforcement, balancing that public interest and business compliance, and allow us to maintain a consistent approach, including updated service areas, and it'll enhance the transparency and operational efficiency we have as an authority. Some key updates I'll just throw your attention to. So there's some things around, if I can get my page to go down. Inclusion of new service areas. There's updated legal and procedural references, reaffirmation of core enforcement principles, a streamlined policy presentation, the commitment to public and business engagement, and a reference to modern regulatory practices such as the use of technology for monitoring compliance and streamlining case management now. Hopefully what the policy is going to do is ensure there's a robust framework for fair and effective enforcement. We'll adapt to changes in local and national regulations, and it'll improve that operational clarity we have of understanding amongst shareholders, including our businesses, residents and enforcement officers. It's a critical policy tool for maintaining consistency across various public protection functions and enhancing the Council's regulatory action. So if I just take you to the recommendation, so there's only one recommendation on this one. That's 2.1, that the public protection, compliance and enforcement policy be approved. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scriven. Do we have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Are there any questions from members? No. Any comments? Should we take it to the vote, please?
Councillor Mitten, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Darren Roberts? It's not working, is it? There we are. Got you. Thank you. That's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. David up to this one as well.
No, David was out for 10 and 13, so he needs to come back in. And then you're on it. Item 14.
Okay, we go on to item 14 of the agenda. Review of Statement of Licensing Principles 2025 to 28 under the Gambling Act 2005. To consider the report of the Deputy Chief Executive, Jamie Scriven again, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 14, so this is a revised policy, will incorporate updates to reflect the current population and administrative details, but avoid any major changes pending any updates from the Gambling Commission. There's been a precedent set in previous meetings that the Council has maintained its no casinos resolution, which is a requirement that we ratify that every 3 years. The rationale behind the report really is updating the licensing principles to ensure there's an alignment with our current legislative requirements and the demographic changes, and obviously to reaffirm the no casinos stance, supporting the local objective of responsible gambling management and public well-being. So if I can just take us straight to the recommendations. So there are two. 2.1, the revised statement of licensing policy 2025-28 to come into force on the 31st of January 2025 be approved. And at 2.2, the no casinos resolution for 2025-28 be approved. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scriven. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Louise Minute-Vaux.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Minute-Vaux. Are there any questions, please? Any comments? No. Councillor Geraint-Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say, welcome the report. A lot of residents in Merthyr Tydfil suffer from gambling addiction, and it's too easy to lose your money in that way. And let's hope that the powers that be at more central government take a firmer stance, I think, on some of the ways people can gamble their money away.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any further comments? No? Okay, we take it.
Councillor Scriven, I think he's just...
Councillor Jamie Scriven.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo Councillor Thomas's comments, I completely agree with, especially with the situation with the cost of living and the effects that it's had on the public. This is a protection that is needed with this report. I'm quite happy to bring it forward. Just a general comment from me before I leave as well, just to thank Alan, which would be his last full council meeting before I leave. It'd be remiss of me not to bring it up, and for your support. And I hope you'll have a happy retirement as well, Alan, when you go off. And hopefully you won't be sick of hearing from me or seeing my face the next few weeks or a year. But thank you, Mr. Mayor, as well, for moving the items around for me this evening. I do appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Scriven. We take it to the vote then, please, members.
Councillor Lisa Mitten, are you for, against or abstaining?
4.
Thank you. And that's carried.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. Okay, we're back to item 9 on the agenda now then. Council Tax Base 2025-26. To consider the report of the Director of Finance, Councillor Anna Williams-Price, please.
Thank you. Council Tax Base for 25-26. This report is based on factual information on the actual number of properties that make up the Council Tax Base. It uses this information to calculate the number of actual chargeable dwellings, full charge, and Band D equivalents we have within Merthyr Tydfil. It will exclude properties that are exempt and those that are in receipt of a reduction or discount or disregard. The number of dwellings has been increasing in recent years, with an extra 57 chargeable properties coming onto the Council Tax Register between October 23 and October 24. However, it is noted that the precept figure for 25-26 of 18898.13 is less than the previous year. Report author Mark Price is available for questions, and thanks to him, as always, for his work in writing reports on this important area. There is one recommendation at 2.1. Taking into account the number of properties in each valuation band, discounts, reductions for disabilities, and future likely changes in the valuation list, the following resolution be approved. That pursuant to this report and in accordance with the local authorities' calculation of council tax base and council tax prescribed class of dwellings Wales Amendments Regulations 2004, the number calculated by the Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council for 25-26 shall be 18898.13, 18943.92 for 24-25, and for the area covered by the Bidlin Ogentry Lewis Community Council for 25-26 shall be 1191.20, 1176.03 for 24-25. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Brent Carter.
I'm happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. We want to do questions then, please. Councillor Andrew Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mark, but in relation to the work that Judith does as well. Can you remind me, Mark, you know the houses that are being planned, that are in development and are in the planning process, at what point are they added to this equation? And is there a correlation between those being added and the medium-term financial plan?
We estimate each year, as stated in the report, the approximate number of chargeable dwellings that are going to come on between the October of one financial period to the other. As the Councillor just stated, we saw an actual increase of 57 between the period last year to the current year. We've estimated a similar figure based on what we're aware of the various developments that are currently undertaken, but not to over-exaggerate what may not actually come into fruition in the next financial period. So yes, we have taken into account over the next 12 months period those that may come in. Care needs to be taken, even though that we are suggesting that there may be 50 additional properties coming on between now and next year, is when they would actually come onto the base. Because if they don't come onto the base until September of next year, we do not get the full financial benefit of that chargeable dwelling for the whole year. It'll be pro rata as a portion of the year. So we do try to factor into account those we believe will come on onto the list, and or approximately when they would actually come on, to ensure that we maximise the amount of revenue that we would generate within the financial period.
So, are you saying there's just a 12-month you make the estimate, or do you make it over the period of the medium-term financial plan? So you do it for the 3 or 4 years of the medium?
No, 12 months. Because the
12
council
months.
tax base figure has to be set each year for us to set the budget for the following year.
Yeah.
So it has to be 1 year at a time.
So in terms of the medium-term financial plan, then, that's not an accurate reflection because the council tax will increase over that period, won't it?
The amount payable, it means?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, more than likely, yes.
Right.
But
Is that an error that needs to be addressed?
That's a question for accountancy, not for me as the revenue manager.
Yeah. Craig, can you clarify that? Because we're talking about a considerable amount of houses over a 3 or 4 year period, and that can affect the figures in the medium-term financial plan.
Absolutely, Councillor Barry. What we look to do with regards to the medium-term financial plan, we will factor in assumed increases in council tax as approved in the medium-term financial plan, but we will also look at trend data with regards to the change to the council tax base, and we will reflect that in our planning assumptions as we go through, and we'll report early in the spring, through the spring.
That's great.
Thank you, Councillor Barry and Craig. Councillor Geraint Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to direct this question to the Cabinet member. In the report, they say there's going to be roughly 45 houses dropped next year, not paying council tax. And we know there's new houses coming online as well. So, in your opinion, Cabinet member, why do you think there's going to be this drop in number of houses paying council tax in Merthyr Tydfil?
Thank you. So the analysis of the information is currently we have an additional 92 dwellings which are exempt, and a large portion of these are Class A properties, property currently under renovation, and this was evidenced in the premium report that went to council recently. So in addition, there's an additional 127 properties classed as single households. So these are the contributing factors that have impacted upon that council tax baseline calculation decreasing for this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas and Williams Price. Councillor Brent Carter, please.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Just a very quick question from myself, Craig. Is this report any different to what it's been over the last 7 years, or is it a stable report? Or Mark, perhaps, is it? Better answer now.
The report is in the same format, and the information is akin to the previous reports that have been brought before Council.
Thank you very much, Craig.
The only difference
Thank you,
would be...
Leader. Councillor Andrew Barry.
Yeah. So the only difference would be the amount of properties being built, yeah? We are. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Any further questions? No. We go to comments then, please. No, no comments. Take it to the vote then, members, please.
What I'm going to say is that because I could see Councillor Kevin Gibbs' face, however briefly, if I'm going to say that he's present for this item. Councillor Gibbs, can you hear me? Oh.
Anne Caris, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. So can you tell me, are you for, against or abstaining on this item?
Oh, for on this this one, Caris. My camera is intermittent. It's not staying on.
Yeah. If I can see you during an item, I'm going to count you as present. But if you go through a whole item and I don't see you, I'm not going to be able to count you as present. But I saw you for a period in that one, so we've taken your vote. Councillor Lisa Mitten, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Williams Price. if your item is not working. Yeah, there we are. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. We go to item 10 on the agenda now. Thank you, Councillor Hughes. So item 10, the policy on the award of mandatory and discretionary rate relief, hardship relief, and section 44A part occupied relief. To consider the report of the Director of Finance, Councillor Anna Williams-Price, please.
Thank you. So quite simply, as outlined in the report, this policy aims to update and collate various existing policies into one. This combined policy, as noted at 1.4, will enable future awards and reviews of reliefs to be carried out in an equitable manner in accordance with best practice. There's one simple recommendation, which is the policy on the award of mandatory discretionary rate relief, hardship relief and part occupied relief under section 44A be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder, please? Leader.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the motion of the report.
Thank you, Leader. Do we have any questions on the report, please? No. Any comments? No. Okay. Take it to the vote then, members, please.
Going to go with the same position as previously. I did see Councillor Gibbs a couple of times during that item. So, Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mitten, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's, oh, again, yeah, Councillor Roberts, we just got him there. That's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. There he is. Item 11 on the agenda, the Welsh Public Library Standards. To consider the report of the Director of Education, Councillor Gareth Lewis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. Not my words, but those spoken by none other than Albert Einstein. Words that highlight how essential libraries and library services are and their importance to the local communities they serve. These words also emphasise the importance of this report that I present before you this evening. Welsh Public Library Standards is the annual assessment that was presented to the Culture Division of Welsh Government for the period 2023-24, during which time the local authority's statutory library service in Merthyr Tydfil was administered by the Merthyr Tydfil Leisure Trust, which, as we know, has since been dissolved. The assessment shows the Merthyr Tydfil Public Library Service meets 10 of the 13 core entitlements in full, 2 in which in part, and does not meet 1 core entitlement. Of the 7 quality indicators which have targets, Merthyr Tydfil is achieving 4 in full, 1 in part, and 2 were not achieved. Actions to address each core entitlement and each quality indicator that were not or only partially met are outlined in sections 5.31 through to 5.4.3 of the report. Following the publication of the report, I can provide the following updates, which will assist in helping to overcome the core entitlements and quality indicators that are only partially met or not met at all. So the updates include the interview process for new library staff concluded this week, and offers of employment will be made by the end of this week. The new website is currently being constructed and will go live by the end of this month. And finally, a public consultation on opening hours will start before Christmas and will run until the end of January, allowing the new staff to take up their positions within the revised opening times. The recommendations are presented in 2.1 through to 2.3 of the report. They are as follows. The report 23-24 is accepted, ratified and approved. 2.2, consideration of actions to address the shortfalls be approved. And finally, 2.3, the bringing of a revised public library strategy in March 25 be approved. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Do we have a seconder, please? Leader, Councillor Brent Carter.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendation set out.
Thank you, Leader. Any questions on the report, please? Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a few questions on it. Can I take you to page 86? It's 5.3.1 entitled Core Entitlement 2. And the second paragraph there reads, Merthyr, and I'll insert the word Tydfil, should be there, Merthyr Tydfil Libraries had previously met this entitlement, but through financial constraints, existing staff retired or left the service and were not replaced. The lack of professional trained librarians is noted and means that this core entitlement is not met. Could I ask if there is a minimum number of staff that should be employed throughout the County Borough Library Service? And also, added to that question, how many qualified staff should there be? Because currently we have one librarian who is fully qualified.
Thank you. So the Welsh Government set these standards and it's done as a proportion against the population. So at the moment, I'm the sole remaining professionally qualified librarian in Merthyr. I have one other member of staff her management qualifications also feed into the figures as well, and her Welsh language skills. So at the moment, our ratio is 0.34. The ratio that the Welsh Public Library standards require us to have is 0.65. So I suppose you're looking at around, you need 4 professionally qualified librarians or equivalent. Other qualifications will come in as well.
2 points. Is there a minimum staff required for all the staff? I take it there's not. There is.
There is, yeah.
And does that include, should there be 4 qualified librarians staff there or 3 others with yourself?
No, I would include the 4 qualified librarians, or the 3 others plus me.
Yeah.
2 others plus me and Rhianwen, within the full-time equivalent staff that is required. Looking at the Welsh Government statistics, we're required to have 20.88 full-time equivalent staff for the population of Merthyr.
So the 2 posts that are being advertised with a closing date shortly, were you asking for qualified librarian staff or other staff?
No, this was for library support staff to actually work on the customer service side. Some of the people who have applied are actually qualified, or they're hoping to use their working time as experience to go forward and gain professional qualifications. I'm actually really pleased by the people who have come forward for interview.
Good.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, how long does it take for a person to become, is it 2 or 3 years?
It depends. If they go, right, so when I did my qualifications, it took me a year because I had a bursary and I attended college, and that's all I did for a year. If you do it distance learning, it's going to take longer. So it's usually between 2 and 3 years for that. Okay,
thanks. Can I take you to, it's over the page, 5.3.2, Core Entitlement 5. And that refers then to a reduction in staffing in 2023. That meant existing library open hours could not be maintained. Opening hours reduced by 30% across the county borough. only Merthyr Tydfil Library is open on a Saturday currently. Even with a reduction in open hours, maintaining open hours with existing staffing has proved difficult. This has led staff not always being able to take leave, and releasing staff for training has also proved difficult.
Yeah.
So could I ask, if you've got staff who, because of the reduction in the staffing ratio, cannot take leave, does that mean when the leave year ends on the 31st of March, that there are staff who have got leave left and cannot take it?
We've taken steps, because this was actually a problem last year as well, and we've taken steps this year so that staff have been encouraged to take all their leave earlier in the year, and we've tried to balance it out. So basically there's only one person allowed to book leave at a time. It's still caused us problems, because when we've had 2 or more staff off sick at the same time, it's sometimes meant it's very difficult to actually have staff to open the buildings. We've managed, but it's been purely due to the staff being flexible enough to cover. I have to give all credit to the library staff in Merthyr. It's purely due to them that some of the services have continued running, because of their flexibility and commitment to the service.
Yeah. So will matters ease a bit with 2 extra members of staff?
Definitely, yeah.
It also refers then to the reduction in opening hours. Is it intention at some stage that the opening hours be increased? I know it's referred later on in the report that that's not possible at this moment in time, but is the intention at some time to increase the number of opening hours?
So we're going out to a public consultation with people about the opening hours, because when we did the reduction in opening hours, it was very fast and very brutal, and decisions had to be made quickly. So what we would like to do is to consult with the communities that the library serve and actually get their input into when they think the library should be open. The 2 staff we've taken on, I don't think we're going to be able to increase opening hours with the 2 staff. As I've said, they're just going to be, their hours will basically help to alleviate the problems we're facing. Increasing opening hours will take more staff again.
And the consultation, that's going to be done starting shortly?
It will start shortly, so start next week and run until the end of January.
Right, okay, thanks. I take you now down to 5.4.1, and that's quality indicator 13. This refers to, amongst other things, what the staffing level should be. According to the Welsh Public Library Standards, quality indicator 13, library authorities shall achieve total establishment staffing levels for the service of 3.6 in brackets full-time equivalent per 10,000 resident population. And this is equivalent to 18, but I think you mentioned 20.
I had a look at the figures again. I think when I wrote the report, I based the population on 56.6.
Right.
And it's actually 58.8 with the figures Welsh Government asked me to use.
Yeah, so it's 20 as your
I think it's 20
figure.
staff, yeah.
Okay. And then further down, and it's already been referred to by the Cabinet member, we've currently only got 9.5 full-time equivalent staff. And it's going to say total number of staff holding a recognised qualification in librarianship, information science or information management per 10,000 resident population should not fall below 0.65. And the paragraph below it refers to the fact that we are 0.4, which is, I think you said,
I think it's
apart from yourself, it would be what, 2 or 3 other?
No, one other person.
One other.
The Welsh Public Library Standards calls for professionally qualified librarians and also people with other skills that are needed. So the other person I've included in those figures has management skills and also communication, media and Welsh language skills.
Right. Okay, thank you. My last question is over the page. and it's under 5.4.2, quality indicator 16. And if you go down the page or scroll down the page to the heading action to address this, you refer to the consultation there, and new public access screens and computers allow staff the opportunity to deliver a wide range of activities. But the last sentence says, consider the development of volunteer-led library services as part of the community focus schools agenda. My understanding is that you currently have some volunteers. Does it only apply to schools? The volunteering we talk about doesn't apply in any other part of the library service?
No. We had a volunteer-led library at Bedlin Oak School at one stage, which was very successful. So it was working with a librarian, and the library service supplied the books, which we exchanged, but they issued and discharged books to local people wanting to use the books. So we're hoping to extend that into other schools so that parents and children will have the opportunity to use the library. It might be at a release, but they'll have access to the books. So it will extend the option to read for pleasure and for well-being.
Yeah. So how many volunteers do you have at the moment?
Not at the moment.
None.
None. But we'll be looking for volunteers from the parents.
Is it just the primary schools you're talking about, or is that extended to secondary?
Primary schools at the moment. The big problem here is the fact I haven't got any staff to send out to be the intermediaries to work with the volunteers. Because it is time intensive. If you're working with a volunteer and you're working correctly to develop that volunteer skills and provide them with the opportunities that volunteering should give, then it's very time intensive.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, to do it and to do it well and to let it grow, it's going to take time. It's not going to be a rushed project.
No, but we won't be using volunteers generally to replace full or part-time staff.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much for the answers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Geraint Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Sean, for coming this evening. Difficult report to bring, really, to talk about. I remember bringing reports where we've topped the table, prior to COVID. And, the pandemic has had a devastating effect on library services across Wales, not just Merthyr Tydfil. So, the Leisure Trust has been put to bed. It's now under Sue Walker. So, do you feel you're in a better place now than you were with the Leisure Trust? That's great. That's good.
Thank you very much.
That's good to know.
I have hope now, and I know we're talking about a reduction in staff, but on the other hand, it allows us to look at the service and think about where it's going to go in the future, so that we can develop the service to take it out to people and hopefully bring them into the library as well.
You're right, it's such an important asset. Yeah. So, for clarity, on the libraries, we've got Merthyr Central, Dowlas, Treharris, Aberfan. Is there anywhere else where library staff work?
No, it's just those four locations.
Just those four at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay. So my last question, I suppose, what everybody burning to ask, I would have thought, is with the amount of hours that we have to supply, the cost, the amount of staff that we need, can I ask the Cabinet member, are there any plans in the budget proposals for you to close any of our public libraries?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Thomas. It's a matter that's already been discussed with the Director of Education. And I can advise there are no plans to close any library services during the financial year of 25-26.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Andrew Barry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great report. As Councillor Thomas says, very difficult report to bring. But now I've got a sort of question for you. Is AI, IT we're swamped by it. How do you make the library service relevant with things like audio books and blogs, and they're everywhere? So how do you keep it relevant?
Right, so I mean, this is part of looking at where the service is going in the future. So to take advantage of new technology. We already belong to the All Wales Consortium, and we use a service called BorrowBox. So you can download e-books for free with your library card. You can download talking books with your library card. That has recently been extended as well. So there are newspapers on there that you can download for free. The big problem with digital is when you buy a book, it's in the library and 20 people can use it one after the other. With a talking book, the way the market works at the moment, you're buying usage of a file, and you can download that file 3 times and then it disappears from your library and you have to buy it again. So a hardback book bought as part of the All Wales Consortium is somewhere around £13–14. A digital book is somewhere around 50. And if I buy a book and it's popular, it's by a good author that we know will be wanted in the future, providing the book doesn't fall apart or get damaged, that book is there for 100 years. A digital book, not so much. It depends on the usage. And if it's not being used, what's the point of having it in your digital library anyway? So IT has a lot going for it. We're slowly getting some of our older readers who have problem with large print or hearing, they use talking box instead. We're slowly getting them to use BorrowBox, which is wonderful because if the print is too small, they can just enlarge it on the screen and they can read it that way. It also increases the amount of titles that are open to them, because with large print books, only a certain proportion, the bestsellers really, are ever turned into large print books or actually turned into audiobooks.
Very limited.
Yeah. So digital technology has a lot going for it, but there are financial implications.
Can I come in there as well, Councillor Barry? We've also purchased 2 C-Touches for Dowlais and for Merthyr Tydfil Central Library to allow sort of a different way of engaging, and you're allowing sort of some author talks to utilise that technology. And we've purchased new public access machines because the ones in the library hadn't been upgraded for a number of years. So we've actually got new public access libraries, computers going into 3 of the libraries, not Treharris because it's not in its home at the moment. So C-Touches in Dowlais and Merthyr Tydfil, which will give a different way of engaging with the public and reading clubs and access like that. We've also looking at the Aberystwyth Library will own part of the Merthyr Tydfil Library for I'm going to get this wrong, Shan, for Click Corner, which means that there's access to thousands of digital archives that are held in the Aberystwyth Library that the public will actually have access to in Merthyr Tydfil Library. So there's a lot that's been done. There's more I think that we can do, but with the staffing that we've got at the moment, it's small steps. But I do think we have got a good way forward.
Because IT, although it may seem doom and gloom for a library, there's opportunities as well, isn't there? Many opportunities, and it's to exploit them and to monetize them as well. Yeah. So it's great. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Councillor Geraint Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question for Sue, really, on that Click service there. The Aberystwyth University National Library of Wales is a fantastic place to go, and I recommend anybody who hasn't been there, go visit it. They have all the BBC and ITV records there and HTV. Will they be available then?
Yes, that's part of the Click Corner. That's the Click
Corner. That is it. Oh, fantastic.
And we'll be the first library in the valleys to actually have it. It's in some of the Cardiff and places like that, but we'll be the first valleys library to actually have that.
We'll be the first library. Are all archives, so we will actually be the first library to have that connection.
Oh, that's brilliant. Modern Officer, I've got a membership card, right, for the National Library of Wales, so I declare an interest.
What I was going to remind members is that we are actually straying off the topic a bit now. So if I know that Councillor Scott Thomas has indicated to speak, so if we can get focused back onto this report, it's fascinating to know what Councillor Thomas has got in his library cupboard. That's enough for now.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Scott Thomas, please.
Yeah, my question kind of almost piggybacks off Councillor Andrew Barry's question in respect of obviously technology. Excuse me. Is there any scope at all to possibly introduce VR in the libraries to sort of create an immersive digital library setting?
I'm going to have to interrupt now. We really are going off the topic.
No, I'm trying to...
No, I understand. But as I've just said, I think those two last questions were veering off the topic. We're now talking about a development of something in respect of libraries, which is not actually what's in this report.
Okay, sorry.
So I think we do need to stick to the subject. Okay.
So is there any more questions on your item agenda? No. Any comments, please? Leader, Councillor Brent Carter.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it quite short. I think we're all acutely aware of what's happened to our libraries over the last few years. Thank you for the report tonight, Sean. I'm very pleased that we're in the process of recruiting extra staff, which will alleviate the pressure massively. Sean, I have no doubt things will improve, and good luck. And on behalf of everyone, all elected members in here tonight.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Geraint Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Clive Jones first, sorry.
Clive. Yeah, right. There we go. Yes, I want to echo the comments of the leader, Mr. Mayor. We're on a journey. We're on a recovery journey for the libraries, as I see it. I have no doubt whatsoever with Sean, and I commend you for your detailed answers tonight before full council. Sean, together with Sue, in the stewardship and leadership of the library service, and I would say as well, together with Councillor Gareth Lewis as the cabinet member, we have a way to go, but I welcome this report, and I've no doubt whatsoever that we are on a journey to improve the service and to bring it back to what it was, I would say, before the Merthyr Tydfil Leisure Trust took it over.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Geraint Thomas, please.
No, just again, thanks, Sean, for bringing the report this evening. It just shows how important the libraries are to the residents of Merthyr Tydfil. They are social hubs, and they need to be open for people to gather there. So, yeah, let's protect them, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Are there any more comments before I bring Councillor Gareth Lewis in to close the debate? No? Councillor Gareth Lewis, then, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to reiterate the comments of my colleagues and offer my sincere thanks to Sean. I think you've provided an honest, transparent and reflective submission of public library standards to Welsh Government. And despite the concerns raised, it does state twice within the report that staff are undoubtedly doing their best in a challenging situation, and that the level of stability has now been achieved. So thank you very much for that. And in no way are the concerns raised a reflection of our hard-working and dedicated library staff. I very much hope that the return of library services to the Council presents staff with a newfound optimism, that a sense of momentum has now gathered for the future direction of the service in overcoming the shortfalls presented in the report. Quite clearly, at a senior leadership and governance level, you were let down by Merthyr Tydfil Leisure Trust, and also to the detriment of the public. In addition, the loss of so many staff and reductions in funding inevitably had a significant negative impact. We must now ensure that each action is addressed, each concern is implemented in full, and I'm pleased that new staff will soon be installed to help address the concerns. Merthyr Tydfil has a rich history of libraries, and most of our existing libraries are impressive early 20th century buildings that benefited from funding made available by the Scottish American philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. It's important that they continue to adapt to suit the needs of a digital age and whenever possible become community hubs. Schools also have an important part to play, opening up their library facilities to the community as part of the community-focused schools agenda. Finally, I think we should all reflect upon the fulfilment that libraries have undoubtedly provided us all and our families at some stage during our lives. Perhaps we should ask ourselves, when was the last time we visited a local library, and then prioritise a revisit. I therefore look forward to updating Council on the progressive direction in providing improved library services over the coming 12 months. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. We take this to the vote then, members, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lisa Mitten, are you for, against or abstaining? Thank you. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Monica Officer.
Yes, of course, yes.
Yeah. You're welcome to leave, Sean. You can stay if you want, but okay, we're going to item 15, Annual Scrutiny Report 2023-2024. To consider the report of the Director of Governance and Resources, Councillor Anna Williams-Price, please.
Thank you. This annual report is backwards looking and covers the 23-24 scrutiny cycle. It provides an update on the role of scrutiny and the work of the committees during the municipal year. It highlights that scrutiny functions within the Council have received attention from Welsh Audit Office and Estin with recommendations to improve quality in this area. Members will note the date of the report as 18th of July, where the substantive work was completed. However, there have been some small amendments to recognise the pressures on democratic services due to elections this year, and also to note the change of executive since the report was written. The report provides an overview of improvements in the scrutiny function already put into place, but recognises that there is more to do. The Council is committed to the ongoing strengthening of its scrutiny function. I want to highlight to residents that there are opportunities to participate in scrutiny, and that there are details within this report and on the Council's website on how to get involved. I believe that centering residents' voices and experiences at the heart of decision making is key to addressing the big challenges in local government. If I take members to the report recommendations, there are two recommendations. 2.1, the Council's ongoing scrutiny improvement programme and actions progress made as detailed in this report be noted. 2.2, the annual scrutiny report for 23-24 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor David Jones.
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Are there any questions from members? No questions? Any comments? No comments? We take it to the vote then, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Lisa Mitten, for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. That's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mona Rosa. To item 16, Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council Local Authority Hardship Scheme. To consider the report of the Chief Executive, Leader Councillor Brent Carter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recent storm Bert brought unprecedented challenges to our county borough, with devastating flooding that we now understand has affected approximately 85 homes, multiple businesses and our vital infrastructure. Many of those impacted now face severe hardship, compounded for some by the lack of insurance cover. This council has always prioritised the well-being of our residents, and in light of these events, we have taken swift action to establish the Local Authority Hardship Scheme. This fund will provide much-needed financial support to those in need, ensuring our community has the resources to begin recovery. Tonight, I present this report for your review and ratification, outlining our response and the measures proposed. I trust that we can work collaboratively to provide the necessary support for those affected during this challenging time. I'm happy to move the recommendation 2.1 of the report, which reads, Mr. Mayor, the actions to alleviate hardship of Merthyr Tydfil residents taken by the Chief Executive in consultation with the Section 151 officer and group leaders of all parties be ratified. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the report, please? Councillor Andrew Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just clarity on the financial implications in terms of the earmarked reserves. Is there a specific earmarked reserve for crisis such as this, or is it coming out of the budget reserve?
When the scale of the costs, the additional cost pressures are established, we will look to locate a appropriate earmarked reserve or fund from general fund reserves.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Any further questions? Oh, you want the comments then, please? Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a week last Sunday when we walked, it was deja vu. You know, going back 5 years. Absolutely mayhem. You know, with the current unpredictable weather we're having at this moment in time. You know, so if we're going to have this every 5 years, the houses that were affected again this time were similar to 5 years ago. And it's not just the rivers that's causing problems, it's the mountain streams, the culverts, etc. And I think, you know, everyone in this chamber, you know, need to, you know, reflect on that and decisions that we make in the future of building new properties, of where they're going to be placed. Will it affect, you know, our culverts? They're going to block up even further for the water can't run away. So, you know, really welcome this. I think it's great. It's great support for the residents of the borough, but I just think we've got to really think ahead of what's ahead of us.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Andrew Barry.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Just following on from what Geraint is saying, really. These events are all too regular, and I remember when we had Storm Dennis, we made a point to Welsh Government that there needs to be a regional response to this. The flooding at Pontypridd, I didn't hear this picked up, but we've spent an extraordinary amount of money on clearing our culverts and ensuring that the water flows into the Taff as quickly and as efficiently as it can. So is the Cynon Valley, so is the Rhondda Valley, and then we're wondering why Ponty's being flooded, because those rivers are filling up more quickly and more efficiently than they ever have. And I think this needs to be picked up by Welsh Government. For us to be picking this up every couple of years will prove crippling if we have to do the residual work every time this happens, and we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know where the next problem will arise. So for me, this has got to be a regional response and not an individual authority response. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Leader Brent Carter, please.
Does anybody else want to speak?
Oh, sorry, anybody else before Leader comes in? Oh, okay, Leader.
Thanks, Mr. Barry. Sorry. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to steal Councillor Barry's thunder slightly. I was on a meeting this morning with Welsh leaders, First Minister, the Deputy Minister, Deputy Leader as well, and people from the Met Office and all sorts of different people from higher positions. This is something which I pushed this morning, that we need a joint venture looking from the top of the TAF all the way down to Pontypridd, how things affect Pontypridd. So that's something which we've already pushed on this morning. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. So we'll take it to the vote, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lisa Mitten, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. Item 17, apprenticeships. This is just an information report. We go on to item 18, to deal with any other urgent business or correspondence. I have received two urgent items. The first is an update from the Leader of the Council regarding Storm Bert. Council Leader Brent Carter, please.
Thanks for allowing us this evening, Mr. Mayor, and I apologise in advance for the lengthy words which I'm going to read out tonight, but I think it's vitally important that we all have an update of where we are. During the weekend of November the 24th, Storm Bert hit Merthyr Tydfil. As soon as the weather warning was issued by the Met Office, council teams were out in force with road sweepers clearing leaves off gullies on our main routes, clearing the trash screens on our culverts, and the gully sucker clearing gullies in areas we knew had been problematic in recent years. During the storm, we also issued over 4,000 sandbags to properties that were deemed most at risk. However, when the storm hit, the intensity of the rain and wind exceeded all forecasted expectations, and unfortunately we saw many properties affected by the flooding. I'm proud to say that council staff and councillors worked closely with our communities to provide support and assistance during this challenging time, and I want to thank everyone for coming together and working tirelessly during this difficult and turbulent event. In terms of financial support, I want to remind everyone that there are a number of options available to anyone affected by flooding, including, as just discussed, the Local Authority Hardship Scheme, where each affected household and business will receive £1,000. The Welsh Government Discretionary Assistance Fund, which provides two different types of grants, plus an additional Welsh Government grant, which will also provide £1,000 for households without insurance cover or £500 to affected households with existing insurance cover. None of these grants need to be paid back. We've had over 90 households come to us for support, and I'm pleased to say that over 60 of those will receive payments of £1,000 this coming Tuesday, with the remaining households receiving their payments next Thursday. Other support offered has included the offer of free bulky item collections for those affected by the flooding. We've had teams out offering support with people knocking doors in the areas worst affected, and a support hub was available at Aberfan Community Centre Cafe for people to access information and advice during this recovery period. This support is continuing for the coming weeks at the Town Centre Hub. We had a total of 8 landslips in Merthyr Tydfil during the storm. 2 of these landslips resulted in road closures in Ponsarn and Quakers Yard. In Quakers Yard, one lane is reopened with temporary traffic lights assisting the flow of traffic whilst works are ongoing. In terms of Ponsarn, safety assessments are being carried out and works will be done as quickly as possible to reopen this route. I also thought it's important to touch on the works that took place following Storm Dennis. The council carried out extensive works following the flooding in February 2000. The extensive efforts put into improving our culverts and drainage systems following Storm Dennis proved successful during Storm Bert, and the work effectively withstood the recent weather conditions. Last Saturday evening, we received reports from Nant Morlas that a sinkhole had formed and was growing at an alarming rate. After getting on site and speaking with residents, 3 separate Nant Morlas households reported hearing rumblings and bangs on the Sunday morning of Storm Bert, which at the time they thought was thunder. However, from our understanding, that's when the collapse happened, and it's taken 6 days to migrate to the surface. A landslip had occurred on the mountain behind Nant Morlas during Storm Bert, which washed stone and debris down into the culvert. This resulted in the collapse of the culvert, which created the sinkhole. You may have seen the pictures shared across our social media platforms where you can see the stone and rubble that washed through the culvert causing the damage. It's quite shocking. In total, residents from 29 properties were evacuated, all of whom are being supported by our housing officers. They remain in temporary accommodation and will be there until it is safe for them to return home. We hope to do this in phases, with some residents being allowed to return home by the end of this week once water is reconnected to their properties. We've had a team of engineers on site since the initial report came through. And I have to say a special thanks to Carwyn Morris, our head of highways and highways and engineering, and his team, who have worked tirelessly, not just over the past few days with the sinkhole, but for more than a week with the effects of Storm Bert. I cannot thank Carwyn and his team enough. In regards to the sinkhole, emergency work over the past few days have included forming a dam on the Nant Morlas stream so we can install pumps to overpump the water and stop it flowing through the culvert. Continue with drone inspections of the culvert and also doing ground penetration radar surveys to identify further voids. And also dropping the water level of the New Pond Reservoir to stop overflow water going into the culvert. As of today, we can confirm that thankfully the sinkhole hasn't increased in size since yesterday. The culvert inspections have been completed and no further issues have been identified. So the collapse is localised in the area of the sinkhole. The dam is in situ on the Nant Morlas stream and will start pumping water today from the inlet to the outlet. We've been liaising with utility companies to establish temporary supplies to properties to enable some residents to return home, and we hope to have more information on this tomorrow. There are so many people and teams within the council I'd like to thank. Ward councillors Paula Leighton, Declan Salmon and David Hughes have all been present in the very area, supporting residents through this difficult time. Our highways and engineering team, housing officers, social services, communications, emergency planning and senior leadership teams have all been working tirelessly in the past 10 days since the storm hit. I'd also like to recognise the residents who have all pulled together and shown such community strength and spirit. As you know, safety is our absolute priority, and we are doing everything we can to support those affected. I want to reassure all residents that we are committed to addressing the aftermath of the storm and ensuring that all those affected receive the help they desperately need. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. The second is to acknowledge that this will be the final full council for our Deputy Chief Executive, Alan Owen. So firstly, before I call members in, on a personal note, Alan, I would like to thank you for your service to the local authority, which I believe is somewhere in the region of 35 years. And as the head of Regen and also lately as the Deputy Chief Executive. I'd also like to wish you a very long, happy and healthy retirement, which is thoroughly deserved. And I know Bev will be leaving you long lists of chores, which I know you will have to carry out. So on that note, all the very best, Alan, and enjoy your holiday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to call upon the leader now, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to also take a moment to acknowledge the retirement of one of our amazing officers and Deputy Chief Executive, Alan Owen. I've known Alan since my tenure as a councillor of 17 years. Knowing Alan for all this time, I can only describe him as extremely sharp, innovative, and usually the most cleverest person in the room. His departure from this organisation will be a significant loss. His experience and knowledge have without a doubt been at the forefront of the regeneration of this town over the past 30 years. Our residents, businesses, and particularly our next generation will all benefit from what has been achieved through Alan's ambition to make Merthyr Tydfil a place to be proud of. It's going to be very difficult to replace him, and I would say he is definitely one of a kind. Many officers have approached me to say how much they have learned from Alan throughout their career, with some commenting, "What Alan doesn't know about the authority isn't worth knowing." Alan's main strength, however, has always been building relationships and making connections. This quality has been paramount in opening many opportunities for Merthyr Tydfil. For me personally, our relationship has always been excellent. Alan, you have forever been a sounding board for any situation, and if you couldn't fix a problem, you knew someone who could. You were a confidant, a go-to person, and have been hugely supportive to me. I will miss you massively. Officers and members will agree with this sentiment, and I know Ellis will feel like he has lost his right arm. Unfortunately, Ellis, you will have to put up with me on your own now going forward. We must remind ourselves, however, that whilst Alan's departure will be a massive loss to this authority, it will be Bev and John's gain. Let's hope Bev sees it that way. I'm quite certain that this is not the end for Alan Owen, and I'm sure we will see him pop up somewhere else down the line. Alan, as leader of this council, can I please take the opportunity to thank you on behalf of everyone at Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council for your contribution to this authority. Enjoy the next chapter of your life, and I'm sure everyone here wishes you a very healthy and happy retirement. And no doubt I will see you very soon. Diolch. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to ask Leader of the Opposition now, please, Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I echo what I won't go as long as what Councillor Carter said, because I just repeated it. But when I came into the council in 2017, I jumped in the car with Alan, and we had a drive around the borough with all the things that were in motion, and we discussed some of the plans that maybe the independent administration would have coming forward. And I can always honestly say that Alan has always been supportive to me, right, through my time as the cabinet member for regeneration and as the deputy leader and the leader of the council. And he will be missed. There's not many people with Alan's experience in local government in Wales, and I know we will miss him greatly. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. You, Bev and John, have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Clive Jones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a father of the house and an old fogey, I can remember Alan starting work in the authority because I was still a local government officer at the time. It was towards the end of my local government career, and there's at least 2 councillors here. I'm pretty certain were on the council at the time you started. I agree with everything that's been said so far. Without a shadow of a doubt, Mr. Mayor, Alan is a one-off, a local man who has reached the highest level in his authority where he resides. I'm sure, Alan, that you're not going to miss me in the scrutiny committee with a pile of questions, whether it's council or scrutiny. But you've done your job with aplomb, and as far as all the members are concerned, without a shadow of doubt, you will be missed in this authority because there is no substitute whatsoever for experience, and you've got that in abundance. I wish you well for your future, good health, and your wife, and I'm sure that we'll see you around in the town sometime. Good luck, Alan.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Anyone else like to speak? No? Okay, thank you all. We move on to item 19, to receive communications from His Worship the Mayor. I have none. So I'd like to call the meeting to a close, please. Thank you.